Hi, and welcome to the NBA show. My name is Morten Jensen, and today we'll be discussing how the Eastern Conference has actually gotten better, and we're going to be using the NBA All-Star Game here in 2021 as an example. Stay tuned. All right, so let's get it out of the way. First and foremost, I know there are a lot of people watching who are fans of certain teams and you feel your guy was snubbed. And you know what? It's fair. It is absolutely fair to have the opinion that your guy was snubbed because you know what? The All-Star roster is 12 players per team and there are more than 12 players worthy of All-Star selection in both conferences this year, significantly so in fact. So there's bound to be at least a handful of snubs from each side. But today I want to focus specifically on the Eastern Conference. Around 3 to 5 years ago, the Eastern Conference was, I don't want to say it was a joke, but the talent level was definitely far inferior to what the Western Conference had to offer. You know, when you looked at all-star teams from the Eastern Conference just a handful of years ago, you would notice that you kind of stretched it out a little bit to actually makes the rosters worth. You had 12 guys you had to get in there, and sometimes you were like, do we even have 12 guys who are really all-stars? This year, it's a completely different story. Guys like Fred VanVleet didn't make it, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis, Trae Young. You have a whole slew of guys, Chris Middleton as well, who didn't make the cut this year, and where you can realistically go to the actual all-star rosters of the people who made it and go, well, they're all worthy, but so are the other ones. So yeah, snub, fair, that's for you to decide. But I want to take away from this the fact that the Eastern Conference now have a significantly larger pool of talent. Now, from an NBA context, that's great. All right, there are some hiccups with the All-Star format, and also, by the way, All-Star roster should be expanded. From an NBA perspective, this couldn't be better news. So how did this come to be? Well, first and foremost, we're looking at James Harden, Kevin Durant, who were long mainstays in the Western Conference. They made the transition over to the East. Durant signed with the Nets, and Harden obviously was traded to the Nets just this year. You have self-developed all-stars in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. Fred VanVleet in Toronto wasn't made an all-star, but is a star caliber player. Zach LaVine developed into an all-star. Julius Randle from the Knicks developed into an all-star. He'd been in the West beforehand. Tobias Harris for the Philadelphia 76ers. You could make an argument that he was all-star worthy. Chris Middleton, who's been in the all-star game before, is also up on that level. Obviously, you have Giannis. There are so many guys now that from a playoff perspective going forward, this could be superbly interesting. Because when you really look back at the history of the league, you've seen over the past decade at least, if not 2 decades, it's been somewhat overwhelming in terms of Western power, so to speak. Yeah, there was that super team in Miami with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, but if you look beyond that in the East, there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, their primary Eastern Conference competitor were the Indiana Pacers, led by Paul George and Roy Hibbert and David West. I mean, okay, good team, but where's the star level there? Now that's changed. The East is finally up to par. We are seeing an NBA that is more even than probably over the past 20 years. And that means we are going to be seeing more entertaining playoff series from the East. We're going to see a better competitor come out of the East into the finals. And overall, this means that the product that the NBA is putting out on the court will be fantastic. And yeah, I know what it sounds like, me just hyping up the NBA, but look, as someone who lives in Europe, it's no secret that when I watch games, primarily it's games from the East Coast, because otherwise I have to stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning for the West Coast games to start, or I have to catch them on replay the day after, and I have kids, I have a job, I have a family. You just don't have that time necessarily always to just go through both the East and the West. So when I watch live games, it's primarily East, and you can sense, I can at least, that there's a difference now. The quality of play is higher because there's finally talent to be found. Instead of these throw together rosters from the Knicks or the Bulls or the Nets back in the day, now you actually have stars you can play through. You have multiple talents on virtually every team that can put up big numbers, can be the primary difference maker in a basketball game. And I can see that. I can see firsthand how the Eastern Conference has grown more competitive, grown more prolific, and also, just so we don't forget, the execution level is there at a much higher rate than before, because that's what talent is. Talent is an ability to execute certain things better than, well, non-talent. Of course, everyone in the NBA has talents, but when you go to the star tier, it just becomes that much better. And if we flip it over briefly to the West, we're looking at guys who didn't make it, such as a DeMar DeRozan, who could be on the move and actually join the Eastern Conference next season. I mean, look, the Toronto Raptors should be in play. He spent, I think, 10 years there, is a club legend. Why wouldn't that be a consideration? So we could be looking at an even stronger Eastern Conference going into next season as well. For the NBA, for fans, especially us overseas, that's a huge, huge boom. That's a selling point. And yes, if we look at it from an all-star perspective, it sucks because you don't have enough guys getting that level of attention, what they deserve, they won't get picked. I'll manage though. I would rather have a product that I can look at through a playoff lens, through a regular season lens, and where I can see competitive basketball every single night that I want to watch basketball. And speaking of the future, there's this other component that we really haven't touched on yet. By having more talent, you can attract more talent. So for Eastern Conference teams, they will be in the hunt for free agents, not just now, but in the foreseeable future. Players will be more inclined to join the likes of the Knicks and the Bulls, who used to be jokes, because they now have star appeal. Julius Randle is a very unselfish forward who gives you over 23 points per game, double-digit rebounding, and 5+ assists per ball game. Who wouldn't want to play with someone who can take away offensive attention from yourself while also being a playmaker? The same can be said for Zach LaVine. And if you would look at Boston, who I did a video on yesterday, they have a huge TP. I have to assume that they would be interested, players looking to move, in joining that organization as well, because they have talent. Now, for the Hawks, we already saw that be a reality last offseason. They got in Bogdan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari. They were attractive as a free agent destination. This goes a long way in becoming that, having star appeal, having guys who are productive to the extent that they are. So for the East, we can finally look ahead and feel just a little bit more certain, a little bit more secure in their longevity. Hopefully this means that the days of having essentially G League rosters being thrown around on any given night are over. At least it looks that way. And that's really, really good news. Hi guys, thank you for watching this video. Since you're all hoops fans, I was hoping that I could interest you in a basketball webinar that I conducted with former NBA video coordinator Mo Dakhil, who spent a lot of time with both the Los Angeles Clippers and the San Antonio Spurs, not to mention the Australian national team's basketball team. So if you're interested in listening to what Mo has to say, you should sign up for the webinar that's going to be live on February the 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll hit the link here in the description. Sign up, share with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. Plus, Mo gave me a tremendous amount of insights that I think you would really, really enjoy. So thank you. I hope to see you on the 25th. Take care.